Earnestly podcast here. Mikey B, what's up, buddy?
Somehow my blood pressure.
Are you gambling again?
Is it a day that ends in Y?
Well, there you go. You do what you do, man. You put money up like that, man. I get it. If it's any time of year to gamble, you got baseball playoffs and NFL right now humming, college football humming, NBA around the corner.
Hockey starts
next week.
6 days.
Yeah, we got. If it's any time to start gambling and really looking at some like trends and stuff, now's the time to do it, man.
If there's any time that you'd like to blow your Christmas money for your children, it's right now.
We hope we make it up right now. Shit.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. But we got a couple things. I'm gonna touch a couple wrestling things I'll get into in a second, and some baseball things as well too. But we gotta talk, man. We gotta talk about your Bengals. What's going on, man? 1-3. I said on the Hall of Podcast last night that I'm concerned, but I'm not overly concerned just yet for a number of reasons. I don't think Baltimore is going to run away with the division. I'm not confident they will yet. So I think because of that, I believe there's still a chance that if they can these next 2 weeks, win these, be Arizona, be Seattle, go to bye week 500 and run the pallet at that point.
Yeah,
but it's different this year. It feels different this year than last year's 0-2 start.
I think the reality of the situation is it's a lot different because of the reason why they've started this way, and it's obviously the injury to Joe Burrow, a guy who ranked last year on Pro Football Talk and Pro Fantasy Football and all those rankings as one of the better down the field passers. He can't throw the ball more than about 15-ish yards. So you're loading the box. You got a lot of safeties playing in the box, which pretty much makes Joe Mixon irrelevant. That's why they haven't ran the ball as well. They can't run play action because you can tell that Joe's laboring out there. The game a couple weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, the Monday night game against the Rams worked because they were able to get the ball out of his hand very quickly. But the reality of the situation is the calf injury is going to linger most of this year, if not the entire year. So it's unfortunate that this is kind of being marred the way that it is. But I think this one I chalk up to the severity and the seriousness of the calf injury. Because the defense has played great in games. It's also been very questionable in games. It was great against the Rams. It was questionable against the Titans. It was good against Baltimore. It wasn't great against Cleveland. So when you look at the situation, when it involves the Bengals, they still have the playmakers. They still have Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins, even though he's dinged up with a broken rib.
Yeah.
They still have Joe Mixon. Tyler Boyd's been playing great out of the slot for them this year. But I think that this is a conversation that needs to be addressed internally inside Cincinnati. The fact that your backup quarterback is Jake Browning is a real problem. There are a couple veterans out there that you probably could have made a phone call to, especially after Joe pulled the calf with time still left in training camp. You could have put Joe on the injury reserve these first couple weeks. You could have let it heal properly and had him at full strength coming out of the bye week and hope that you get to the bye week at 500. With a Colt McCoy, with you had Trevor Siemian in camp for a while. Even you could pick the phone, called a guy like Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. There were guys that were available that you could have made a phone call to and been like, hey, here's the situation. Joe's down. We're going to put him on IR. We need you to come in. We want you to fight for this job. We want you to win this job. Get us through the bye week, and then we'll address from there. Because that would have given Joe an extra 7 weeks, because the bye week is week 7. If you get through it at 3-3 and you give him 7 weeks off the rest of that thing, coming out of the bye, you play San Francisco, you have Kansas City, you have Buffalo, the rematch against Baltimore, the rematch against Cleveland, 2 against Pittsburgh. There are games here that a 75% Joe Burrow could be a problem, but 100% Joe Burrow, you'd give the Bengal the edge in a lot of those games.
But I feel like the
So
problem. I feel the problem is, yeah, Burrow definitely looks like he's definitely still recovering from that injury, but the O line's been is reverted back to 2021.
I won't go that far. And this is where I think that teams knowing that Joe is not at 100% are stacking more guys in the box, knowing they can't throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field because of the calf.
Right.
The vertical throws against Baltimore, everything floated, everything didn't look right. He didn't have the same zip on the fastball. It just floated. And I think that's a real problem. When you can bring safeties and corners into the box, you can jam them at the line of scrimmage, you can blitz corners, and Joe can't get away from them because of the calf. He can't hand the ball off. They've ran, I think, 80% of their plays out of the shotgun this year because they're trying to give Joe the ability to not have to take many steps back on the drop after taking the snap. Those are all things that are going to play into this severity of the Bengals season. And this is why I said it on the Huddle Up show leading into the beginning of the year. I've said it, anyone that wants to listen to it. The Cincinnati Bengals, as soon as Colt McCoy got cut by Arizona, they would have been smart to bring him in. They would have been smart to bring in a veteran as soon as they knew that calf popped, because calf injuries are something that it's going to take a while to get over. So if you have an opportunity with a veteran, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, I don't care who it is, if you have that shot to still get out of the spot that you're in right now with the same record that you're hoping to have at the bye week with an injured Joe Burrow, I think I would have been happier being 3-3, knowing that, hey, I'm getting the guy who is a lot of people's picks to be MVP coming back in a couple weeks.
And I feel like, and Joe Burrow said today, and I agree with him. I'll go a step further. These two games are must wins. These next two games are must wins. Arizona and then Seattle, because you go to the bye week, you come out of the bye, and this schedule right now, at least on paper right now, if we are to believe the teams we see right now, how they're playing now, are going to be who they are going forward, out the bye, you're playing San Francisco, who's probably the best team in the league right now. Okay, then Buffalo, who's probably the second best team in the league right now. The Texans are frisky right now. We'll see how they are in a month. That may change, but that's a tough out right now. Then in Baltimore on the road. Pittsburgh, we'll see. Jaguars, we'll see. Colts, kind of weird. And I mean, the point is, there's really no gimmies here on the schedule anymore. I thought, like, Arizona should be a gimme, but
the back end of their schedule was always the tougher part of their schedule.
Right.
I said that before it started, which was why I said if Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan gets you 500 or a little better going into the bye week, knowing that you're getting Joe Burrow back for that back end slate, now you're telling yourself, I've got the guy that I think is the favorite to win the MVP.
Yeah,
coming back. We're ready to go. So, and unfortunately, it's that's not happening. I don't think MVP level Joe Burrow is here this year.
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear right now, at least through 4 games, that is the case. So where do you stand on the team right now? Do you think they can recover, or will they recover? Do you think this is something that's going to linger for at least another month or so? Because if a month of this happens and they play even 500 ball the next month or so, that could be, I hate to say, a death nail possibly.
I'm not going to say that I'm out. Let's start there. But they're going to need some breaks that you can't guarantee are going to happen to keep yourself competitive. I think the best thing for them going right now is the fact that the AFC after the Kansas City Chiefs is kind of wide open. Aaron Rodgers going down means another wild card spot is possibly available. Miami has played fairly well. Kind of got, punched right in the mouth. So we'll see how they respond this week. But after that, the only other team that has on paper played consistently well has been the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's been up and down. The Chargers have been up and down. Don't get me started on the rest of the AFC West. Don't get me started on the rest of the AFC South. Yeah. I get it. We lost to Tennessee this week. They're one Ryan Tannehill injury away from basically running the Wildcat the rest of the year, because nobody wants to watch Will Levis or Malik Willis play quarterback in the National Football League this year. And in the North, Cleveland's a cute story. They're a good defense. Losing Nick Chubb is going to hurt them more than they think, especially if Deshaun Watson's battling post-concussion syndrome and things like that. We watched what happened to Tua Tagovailoa, who they rushed back from a concussion. If the Browns do the same thing, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if TJ Watt gets in there and, you know, we see Deshaun Watson throwing up gang signs.
Yeah.
You know, Pittsburgh's a obvious, you know, that they're a good team. We know that about Pittsburgh. But do you trust Kenny Pickett? Because the
answer right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now. So there's definitely a lot of things. Look, I think these next 2 games are could possibly define where we go beyond October 29th, because if they didn't even win these games. I didn't think they would lose to Tennessee. I thought they would win. Even if they went 2-1 the stretch, I would have thought, okay, fine, they'd be okay. But
we said last week that 2-1 out of this 3-game stretch was the goal.
Right.
We didn't know that the loss was going to be to Tennessee. We thought it was going to be to Seattle.
Right.
If there was a team that they were going to lose to out of this slate, you probably would have circled the Seahawks game.
Right. Correct.
It wouldn't have been Tennessee. And I think that's more of a lot of teams have figured out the script of let's load the box, let's make Burrow as uncomfortable as possible, let's get as many fast guys in the game as we can to get to him as quickly as possible.
Right.
Because Cincinnati has basically shown their hand. It's get the ball out of his hand, get it out of it quickly, get it to Higgins, get it to Chase, and try to let the playmakers make plays. Unfortunately, now that the entire National Football League knows that that's what you're going to do, you've got to find a way to beat them. And that's going to be hard to do because when you have that many guys in the box, it's hard to run the football.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. One other thing I want to talk about with you before we get to pro wrestling, the Celtics.
Yes.
So we saw that trade with Dame Lillard last week to Milwaukee, and everybody was, and rightfully so. That's a huge get for the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm of the assumption, I'm of the opinion that Drew Holiday going to Boston, and this is not, there's a lot of ifs involved in this. Stay with me here.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming KP Porzingis stays healthy for the year, I feel like, coupled with a Tatum leap, which I'm hoping you see this year finally, another leap,
correct,
which I think will happen. I feel like that move honestly canceled out the Dame acquisition in Milwaukee. Honestly, that's where I'm at right now. Assuming those things play out going into April of the season.
I won't say that it cancels. I'll say that it keeps it competitively balanced, because I don't necessarily think that I put the Drew Holiday acquisition as being the same level as getting Damian Lillard. What I will say is I think that it gives the Celtics some good depth. I think it gives them the ability to have the ball in Jason Tatum's hands more, which I think they want, which I think if he's going to take that step as being the next superstar in the NBA, he needs to do. He needs to have the ball. He needs to work with the ball. He needs to work off the ball. He's got to get the ball to guys like Jaylen Brown and into KP and things like that. But while it's a good thing to get Drew Holiday, you can't also forget what they gave up to get him.
Yeah, Robert Williams in that trade.
Malcolm Brogdon
in that trade. Although Brogdon and I would take Hollywood Brogdon personally. So that I think
sure. I'm more Time Lord, because Time Lord is a guy who in the playoffs, when healthy, was willing to bang with any other center in the NBA. Jokic, Giannis, Bam, didn't matter. Embiid, he was ready to bang. A guy with injury problems in Kristaps Porzingis and the aging body of Al Horford, it's going to be hard to whitewash those guys when you don't have a guy like Robert Williams who's willing to bang for 28 minutes a night. That's something that you're going to have to find a replacement for, and I think that's the biggest question, and that's why I don't say that this is a complete wash of the Damian Lillard trade, because Milwaukee got something that they needed so bad last year after Chris Middleton decided to just disappear with the injuries and just not being there. They needed a second superstar to put with Giannis, and they went out and got it.
Agreed.
So, I'll say this as a Celtics fan, I love the acquisition of Drew Holiday. I love the ability of getting better, and I think the Celtics got better. But I will say this, I think the favorites right now in the Eastern Conference, with all due respect to my Boston Celtics, it has to be the Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow.
When you add the piece that you added in Damian Lillard, I think you have to give them the Vegas betting odds favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Who am I going to put my money on in a couple weeks before the season tips off? I will probably put a Boston Celtics future bet in to win the Eastern Conference because I am a homer. And I think that if there's a team that is not the Milwaukee Bucks that is going to win the Eastern Conference, it will be the Boston Celtics. So I look at it from that perspective. If I'm going to put my money on someone, I think it's a two-team race right now in the Eastern Conference. I think there are some teams that can get themselves in the conversation with some moves, whether it be now or at the deadline. I think Philly needs to figure out what they're doing with James Harden, depending on what the return is for him. Philadelphia can put themselves into a conversation.
Well, he did show up to practice to camp today. That's good news, and he wasn't fat.
I mean, I think that's more like hey, I'm going to show up in good faith that they trade me, so it looks better for whoever is going to try to acquire me.
Oh, I agree.
Because I don't think that he's a long-term Philadelphia 76er.
Neither do I.
So with that being said, I think the reality of the situation is I think when you look at the Eastern Conference right now, it is a two-tier situation where it is the Celtics, it is the Bucks, and then it's that next group that is Miami, Philadelphia. I think you have those two teams, and then I think the rest of the Eastern Conference is kind of a muck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how those two teams go, because it's clearly those are the two teams right now that are the front runners now to win the conference. I do understand. I should say with the Bucks being favorites. I don't know. I feel like that Drew acquisition was huge. I know again you lose Rob Williams in the interior, but man, I feel like if KP can stay healthy, that Boston roster and Derek White, I feel like Derek White is the one guy too old in that roster, another great defender that fills out that team so well.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. But I think the reality is the Vegas betting line favorite before night one will probably be
It is Milwaukee right
the
now.
Milwaukee Bucks.
It's Milwaukee, Boston, and Denver in that order.
Well, I'm just saying. I was saying to win the Eastern Conference. I think it's Milwaukee, and then I think it's Boston according to Vegas. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the order of the NBA. It's Milwaukee, Boston, Denver. That's why I said I think wherever James Harden goes, I think that's going to be an interesting, depending on if it's a team, Miami, if it's a team, the Clippers, if it's a team, that they feel is a fringe piece away from being in the conversation.
Right.
They probably jump into that 4 spot in the NBA running. But like I said, I think, and I'm okay with being the second favorite because, like I said, I think right now going into the season, the way that these lineups look, I think the only team that can compete with the Milwaukee Bucks out of the Eastern Conference is the Boston Celtics. So I'm okay with being 1A, 1B, as you like to so elegantly put it on the Huddle Up podcast. So if you're telling me on October 4th, it's 1A, 1B, I'm okay with being 1B because it gives me a shot to beat 1A. There
you go. How you feel about Edge and AEW? Adam Copeland.
Yeah, rated R superstar Adam Copeland.
I love the end. Did you go to the theaters that night?
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll get there. That's a story and a half. Let's finish the Edge conversation, and I'll tell you my war story.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, it was awful. Okay. I don't necessarily hate it. I'm intrigued to see what they do with it. I think there are a bunch of dream matchups for him, as well as if he decides to team with Christian to face teams like the Young Bucks and FTR and guys like that. So that's really cool. I'm also cool if he kind of takes the CM Punk role and is like the face of Collision. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, letting him be the Saturday night main event guy. I'm cool with him being around and doing the stuff that he's projected to do. My question though, and Big Jim, our good friend Big Jim, sent this over. Adam Copeland always shared a close relationship with Vince McMahon, but shockingly, McMahon no longer calls all the shots in WWE. The end-all be-all is now parent company Endeavor and their CEO, Ari Emanuel, who may not have been able to grasp the true value of Edge, but in what will prove to be a massive understatement, his loss is AEW's gain. So there's something that it's almost like, and this was a fear that I genuinely had whenever somebody that wasn't in the wrestling business got control and final say in the wrestling business. There are guys that when you pick up the phone, you're like, oh, hey, let's bring back this aging veteran that will get asses in the seats. Insert Dwayne Johnson, insert John Cena, insert Ric Flair. Edge was that guy for a lot of the guys that are buying tickets to your shows nowadays. Especially after, and I was there, like I said, and we've talked about this. I was there the night that I unsuspectingly knew that I watched his last match for some 15 or 10-ish years. I was at that WrestleMania when he fought Alberto Del Rio, and I was sitting at my house watching SmackDown a couple days later when he had to relinquish the title because of the injury.
Yeah.
It's nuts to know that, if you tell me, hey, by the way, Mike, Edge is going to be on Raw in Miami, in a couple days. Oh shit, I gotta watch. Oh shit, I gotta find out if I can get tickets. I gotta find out if I can get off of work. Edge was a guy like that for me.
Okay.
I think he was that guy that I watched him a lot.
So you think
I watched him in the Brood?
You think WWE made a mistake by just letting him go like that?
I think the Endeavor group not taking the severity of somebody of Edge's caliber needs to be addressed moving forward.
But do you think do you think Edge actually wanted to also go try this out outside WWE? Because I always feel like he was a WWE guy, honestly. I'm actually a little surprised he did this, honestly. But given the fact that if what you're saying is true, then it makes sense.
I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I think he wanted to do something with Christian. I think he knows that Christian's not coming back.
Right.
So what's your opportunity to go work with your best friend one final time before you hang him up? You have to go somewhere else. We talked about it on Take 3 this week. I told myself that, I felt like if I was Edge, I would do more like freelance stuff, go to New Japan, go wrestle some matches there, go do some other stuff, and then inevitably have my final moment with Christian in AEW. A couple of days later, we hear the "You think you know me," and that happens. So I was increasingly wrong there. Surprise to no one. But yeah, I think he has a ton of matches that are going to be fun. He faces Luchasaurus on Tuesday night titles because preempted by hockey. But you have a lot of fun matchups. Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho for the first time in however many years. Inevitably, the matches against Christian. He could share a ring with Sting, Darby Allin. The promos with him and Maxwell Jacob Freeman would be fire. Adam Cole when he's healthy. If Christian and him get together, the tag matches that they could have with guys like the Young Bucks and FTR, they're fun. They're fun to fantasy book, but I will tell you this much: as much as I want to sit here and enjoy those things, I also need to never watch a Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys match ever again.
Thank you.
Can we please not tarnish that because you did a lot of cocaine, Tony? Just leave it alone.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Nope, because you're never going to get the match that you think you're going to get. Because breaking news. They're all in their 40s. They've all taken way too many crazy, stupid bumps, and Jeff Hardy's done too many drugs.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on that one. Like I said, it's weird seeing him there, but I'm actually. I guess my question is this though: how long do you think he'll stay there? He's going a year, 2 years? Because I don't see this being a very long tenure.
Full time
Ish.
I would say less than 2 years. Now, is it a 2-year run and then he's a periodic guy? Is he a guy like Sting who wrestles 4 or 5 times a year? Possibly. If I had that's just throwing a dart at the wall. Obviously with the condition that he has with his neck, anything could change that. It could be a day, it could be a month, it could be 4.5 years. There's no real way of knowing the true severity of how serious it's going to be. So yeah, I don't know. I think that this is a question because it could be, like I said, it could be super long, it could be super short. I'm intrigued to see, because I didn't think that it would be Christian and Luchasaurus right at the jump that we were going to get into the Christian feud. So I'm intrigued to see what happens on Tuesday night.
Yeah, definitely. Tuesday night's gonna be very wacky because they preempted AEW, moved to Tuesday. NXT's on Tuesday already, and they're gonna have John Cena. And who else is gonna be there on Tuesday night?
Paul Heyman is in Braun Breaker's corner. Asuka will be there. Cody Rhodes is making a announcement on the show.
This is also gonna be a post Fastlane
correct
show too. So I mean, a lot going on, and that and I think after this is Crown Jewel. I think coming up after that, I believe. I believe so. Prior to Survivor Series. So this could be a pretty big NXT.
Yeah, I don't know the full. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I don't know the full slate of.
Yeah, it is Crown Jewel.
Premium. It is okay. So I was gonna say I don't know if it's. I didn't know if there was another stateside show before.
No, I think Survivor
Series anything. Yeah, it's Fastlane to Crown Jewel to Survivor Series.
Yep. So we're at that time of the year now. All right. Speaking of Fastlane, quick preview. 5 matches booked for this thing so far. Let's get to it quickly. Judgment Day with Finn Balor and Damian Priest versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. Who do you like this one?
I've said this on the show that I feel like the crack in the foundation has to be Finn Balor inevitably losing the tag titles. But I don't think it's here. Because I don't think Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso make a lot of sense to be the World Tag Team Champions. Right. I could be wrong here, but I think the Judgment Day retains with chicanery.
I like it. All right. Yeah. Oh, shit. Hold on. I lost that a second. Give me one quick second here. There it is. All right. We have 6-man tag match between the LWO, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, and either Joaquin Wilde or Cruz del Toro, Zelina Vega, versus Bobby Lashley and the Profits. Should be a fun match. For this one.
Yeah, part of me almost thinks that I would like it better if it was Santos, Cruz, and Joaquin Wilde with Ray in their corner.
Yeah.
Give me the new Hurt Business though. They need the win to get themselves established and be over. So yeah,
they're not calling them that yet, though, right? They're not calling them that, right? Okay.
No, I don't think they have a faction name. I'm just gonna call them Hurt Business 2.0 because I think that's the logical thing to do right now. So
they got to bring it back.
Yeah, give me Bob and the Profits.
All right. Truth match on for the Women's WWE Women's Championship: Io Sky, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair.
I said when they announced the debut of Jade Cargill that she was going to sign their contract, that my match for her at WrestleMania was Charlotte Flair. I think that makes a ton of sense. So what better way to get Charlotte ready for a match against Jade Cargill when you make that match for the WWE Women's Championship? I'll take Charlotte Flair to walk out of Fastlane as the new champion.
So quick, it's a really short-lived EO title reign, huh?
See, the thing is, though, the Money in the Bank briefcase on the women's side has either been never held for a long time, or the title runs have been fairly short afterwards. I don't need example of that. Yep. I don't need EO to be the world champion because her feud going into Survivor Series and Royal Rumble and WrestleMania is inevitably going to be Bayley.
Right.
With Dakota Kai kind of being in the middle because she's friends with both of them. So I think that's the inevitable route that they're going with that. So Asuka doesn't need the title. She had the title for a while and she really didn't do much with it. So, you go back to old reliable, you go back to Charlotte Flair, you set her up, you let her run through the SmackDown division for a couple months before the main roster debut of Jade Cargill. And then that's when Jade takes over and wins the title at WrestleMania from Charlotte and then starts a run where she's the Jade Cargill of the women's division.
Speaking of which, you keep mentioning Jade Cargill. She got signed last week to WWE. When do you think they'll debut her? Rumble?
No, I think it'll be before then. I think she wins the Rumble.
Oh, okay. They're definitely fast tracking her to the main roster. They said
yes, I do think that she does have some work that needs to be done in NXT. I don't think that they will let her work in NXT. That's why I think Jade Cargill makes a lot of sense. Maybe a Survivor Series, let her work after that in all of December, all of January, lead into the Royal Rumble, and then get her into the match with Charlotte at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and honestly, the way they use NXT as of late, man, NXT kind of like a couple years ago when we thought maybe
it's kind of feeling like a third brand again, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And you got John Cena there now, and you got Cody Rhodes and making an announcement there. Come on, I mean, it's crazy.
And you have the Judgment Day there almost every week because of Dominic Mysterio being the North American champion,
which he got back last night. So yeah. All right, we have John Cena and LA Knight, versus the bloodline of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. Cena and LA Knight.
Oh, that's 100% to get LA Knight over more.
Yeah,
1,000%.
More. I mean, more. How about more over KB? He's already over. Is it?
I mean, you're giving him the rub of being in the ring with the bloodline and teaming with John Cena.
But Michael, this tells me that they see more than just a mid card guy with LA Knight. They see this guy possibly being a world title guy in the future.
Well, I mean, I think he is, but I think he also needs to get the hell off of SmackDown because, they've made it abundantly clear that the guy with the title isn't fucking losing it anytime soon.
Well, at least till Mania. We'll see. I mean, the Rock's come back, so maybe that's, I don't know. That can change.
I'll take Cena and LA Knight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And finally, the last man standing match in the world title. We got Seth freaking Rollins, and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Neither one of them walks out with the world title.
Someone's cashing in.
Damian Priest cashes in and walks out with the title.
Yeah, I'm surprised Seth is still champion this long.
I think that this is the end of Seth's run, and I think Seth's going to take some very needed time off. I think he beats Nakamura, but I think Nakamura beats the ever-loving fuck out of him. And I think that's when Damian cashes in. And I think the telltale sign will be depending on how the tag title match goes.
Yeah.
If the tag title match goes horrifically wrong and they lose the titles to Cody and Jay, I think the cash-in smell is going to be very heightened, especially with a match with that stipulation. Especially when Seth has poised that he's hurt and that he's hurt and that he's hurt and then he's hurt. If he's somehow able to defeat the very strong-willed and very angry Shinsuke Nakamura, he's going to be hurt coming out of that. And what easier way to then pick the bones to cash in Money in the Bank so the Judgment Day may lose titles, but it also gains the biggest prize on Monday Night Raw. Yeah.
I actually agree with everything you said there. I agree with you on. All right, that's Fastlane Preview. What else here? If we get you out of here. Baseball playoffs on the way. Just started yesterday, and already wildcard round's done.
Yeah, I was gonna say it started and ended already.
Like 2 days, not even 48 hours.
Nope,
not even done. So I ask you this: we're now in the divisional round.
Mm-hmm.
I guess give me your World Series. Give me ALCS, NLCS predictions.
I will take the two favorites in the American League. I will take Baltimore and Houston to meet for the American League title. The National League, I think this one is going to be a lot of fun because Atlanta and Philly play each other. I think that's going to be a fucking
like last year
slugfest of a series. If Philadelphia gets the pitching that they got in these first two games, I think they play themselves into contention.
Mm-hmm.
And in the other series, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, they played each other a bunch this regular season. I think the key here for Arizona is they're just young enough to not give a fuck.
Yep.
They're young. They haven't been there before. They're not letting the pressure get to them, as proven going up against two really good starters in Milwaukee in this series, in Corbin Burns, who was a Cy Young contender 2 years ago, and Freddie Peralta, who pitched well to start this game. I think he had like 5 no-hit innings before they finally cracked him with an Alec Thomas home run, and then the floodgates opened from there. And I think that's the mindset that this Diamondbacks team has to have going into LA, is that I don't care that Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Max Muncy and Clayton Kershaw are in that dugout. They got to beat us. And I think that's the mindset that Arizona has to have coming into this series to get past the Dodgers. I think that they're a piece away from beating the Dodgers. I think that series goes 5. I think the Diamondbacks push them to the brink of elimination, because I think that they're going to do things a little bit more illogical than others. I think they're gonna try to steal runs. They're gonna try to steal games.
Keep it on balance. Get a little bit in balance.
You know, and they're not afraid to lay bunts down. They're not afraid to hit and run. They're not afraid to do some wanky things.
Do you know the record this year against each other by any chance?
I don't, not off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
I'll say this much. I think the National League is a little bit more, open. I mean, I think that you tell me, oh, but the Atlanta Braves set a record for this, and they hit this many home runs, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this. Cool story, bro. They were the 1 seed last year too, and kind of shit themselves against this Phillies team. I think both NL series go 5. I'm gonna take Atlanta. I'm gonna take Atlanta to get past Philly in 5.
Yeah. I think the Dodgers.
I think you have to still give the Dodgers the edge over Arizona. I hope Arizona advances, because I'd love to watch the kids play in a big stage. So yeah, I guess I'll go chalk. I guess I'll go Dodgers, Braves, Astros, Orioles.
And then your World Series.
I will take the Baltimore Orioles to represent the American League, and I will take the Los Angeles Dodgers to represent the National League.
And then who is it all? Orioles?
I bet on them.
Might as well run with it.
Yeah, we're gonna run with it. This one's for you, Big Jim. Give me a team that lost 110 games 2 years ago. To win the World Series. I said it a couple years ago. That this team was putting together pieces that were going to make them competitive very quickly. The drafting of Adley Rutschman, the being able to bring him up the way that they did. And they've got 4 or 5 guys that are sitting there waiting to get called up that are going to make them even better. Keston Highshed, Jackson Holiday. They got a couple of pitchers down there that are waiting to get called up that are in Double-A. I think this Baltimore team's a year ahead of schedule. But when you're playing with house money, I think they have to have the same mentality that the Arizona Diamondbacks need to have. And that's fuck them. We're here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, 2 things to get you out of here. This is down my alley here. Buck Showalter and the Mets part ways. He didn't get fired, but he got fired. What I'm hearing. The new guy they brought in here, David Stearns, wants to clean house to bring his own guys in. I hate the move personally. I love Buck. Any thoughts on that?
I think it was time. I think it was time for Buck to, and that's why I think that this is a quote mutual decision.
Right.
Because I think Buck knows that he got the most out of that roster, and without ripping that thing down all the way to the ground, he wasn't going to get any better with that roster. There are some problems that the New York Mets need to address. There are some things that they need to do. They need to do it rapidly. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you right here on the show, it's not by spending money.
Thank you.
I get it. Signing Justin Verlander and signing Max Scherzer is cute. I get it. Being in the running for Shohei Ohtani is the flashy thing to do. Guess what? That's 3 guys that you're going to conversate with in the last 2.5 years that are injury prone, and you guessed it, fucking injury prone. Maybe we should address a situation of, hey, let's sign a guy like Cody Bellinger. let's trade Pete Alonso and see what we can get back for him. Let's build this thing down to the ground. Let's build with Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, the pieces from a Pete Alonso trade, the Ronnie Mauricios of the world. Go sign guys like Jack Flaherty. Go sign guys like, Kenta Maeda to get you through a couple years while you develop a couple guys in AA and AAA. Yeah. I get it. It's cute. I get it. You're a new owner and you want to throw your money around. Hubba, hubba, hubba. But it didn't work. And doing it again this year isn't going to work because you still have to play 162 games and you got to play both Atlanta and Philadelphia a shit ton.
But you do sign Pete Alonso, right? To the money he wants. He's still
honestly
45 home runs this year. I mean,
honestly, no. I don't. I trade him.
Oh.
Is he a free agent or do you still have him under team control?
I think another year left, I think.
Here you go. You pick up the phone, you find out whoever wants him, and you trade him for as much as you can get for him.
Wow, that's a hot take.
Well, because Pete Alonso doesn't get you to the playoffs. He hits you 45 home runs. He looks good in fantasy baseball. But when you lose 85 games a year, what does 45 home runs get you?
Yeah, he has one year left in his contract.
Because honestly, in September, him on a run where he was hitting home runs every night, wasn't putting asses in the seats. They could give two fucks about Mets baseball.
I will say though, he does feel like a long-term Met. He has kind of a day of right field to him a little bit in terms of this
he definitely
guy, that kind of thing.
The only other person that gives me David Wright vibes on this roster is Jeff McNeil.
Yeah.
Those two guys are guys that I could see being lifers for the New York Mets. But if I am the New York Mets and I'm telling myself I need to tear this thing to the ground and rebuild it, I'm trading Pete Alonso.
Yeah. All right. One last thing we get you out of here. We had some sad news over the weekend. Tim Wakefield, famous knuckleballer, two-time champion Boston Red Sox, passed away due to brain cancer over the weekend. You're a Red Sox fan, obviously, so you obviously got to see him at his heights of his powers. I remember watching him in Pittsburgh. I always was a big fan of his because he was an anomaly. He was a knuckleballer. Always liked those odd pitchers and stuff back in the day. This one hurt. This one hurt a lot, especially people. Obviously, the baseball community was hurt by this, but if you're a Red Sox fan, those two world titles early on when Wakefield in 04 and 07, I mean, this one had to hurt. I mean, your thoughts on Wakefield, his impact into the community, to the team, all that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. I remember early in the week the talk being that the news broke that both Wakefield and his wife were battling cancer, popped up on Curt Schilling's podcast. And I remember the first thing going through my mind was there are a lot of people that are mad at Curt Schilling. And they're not asking how Tim Wakefield and his family are doing. And I felt like that was very frustrating. You got a guy who's meant as much as he has to the community, to the Red Sox organization, fighting and battling the fight of his life. And we're mad that Curt Schilling spilt the milk on his podcast. I don't necessarily know that I'm in that boat. Curt was a friend of his. Maybe Curt knew how bad it was, and he wanted Timmy to get the acknowledgement from the people, while he could still understand how many people loved him and cared about him. Maybe that was Curt's mindset. I don't know if it was or not. I don't know Curt Schilling from an apple or a pear. That's kind of what I'm going to say is that what it was is Curt was trying to get people to acknowledge how much they loved Tim. Unfortunately, he lost the fight. He lost the battle. I was gutted. I think gutted is the word I used both times on Sunday. I was at lunch with the guys from baseball after our game. And I'm sitting here and, I got the message that popped through, and a friend of mine was sitting next to me, and he's a Red Sox fan too. And I kind of dropped my phone and basically goosebumps kind of came over both of us. Hold on. people were kind of like shocked, and we kind of thought, we sat there for a few minutes, and I finished my lunch and paid my bill and started to come home, and on my way home, that's whenever I put out the tweet that I put out that I was gutted, because that's the word I think that described it the most. I pitched the last inning of our game on Sunday, and for a long time, a lot of people used to fuck around with me and tell me, hey, you should throw a knuckleball because you throw slow enough. It gives it time to move and stuff like that. And I wish I knew how to throw one, because if I did, I would have. And I definitely would have thrown it on Sunday for Wake. But I'll never forget watching the film about the Red Sox in 2004. Him and Alan Embry were the last two guys to leave the mound at Yankee Stadium, because the year before, Wakefield gave up the home run to Aaron Boone.
Yeah.
And to know that Wake was a very integral part of winning the World Series in 2004, it made me smile all the way back then, because he got the redemption that a lot of Red Sox never had the opportunity to get. And it sucks. Reading the tweets from his former teammates, from Derek Lowe to David Ortiz to Jason Varitek, and you could see Tech in the dugout Sunday afternoon after the season finale, talking about Wake and being in tears, and talking about the man that Tim Wakefield was. I listened to a Red Sox podcast religiously, name redacted, Jared Carabas, formerly Section 10. He was part of Barstool. Now he's in DraftKings. And, Jared they put out a podcast. I saw a clip of it. I haven't listened to it yet, because I don't know that I'm mentally ready to listen to that episode. Because that one's going to hurt. And I know it's going to hurt. But he made the point that they had Wake on a couple years ago, and he made it a point just to keep saying how great of a human being Tim Wakefield was. How much he loved his family, how much he loved his friends, how much he would be there for the next person, no matter if you knew him or not. And I think that's what I take out of this, is if we could all put a little bit of Tim Wakefield in us, I think we'll all be better people. It's unfortunate, obviously. There aren't any classy words to talk about anyone in the past tense. So it sucks. Yeah, like I said, gutted was the word I used all weekend. It's the word I use now. Because I've thought about signing up to do the Red Sox fantasy camp over in Fort Myers, and he was a guy who the last couple of years had been a former player, trainer / coach. And he was someone who I would have been like a kid in a candy shop if I had the ability to meet him. And to conversate with him, and to know that that's not possible at the tender age of 57. It's really weird. I turned 35 in 2 days. It's weird that if you tell me in 22 years from now that I'm not here, it's like, how do I tell myself that that's a real possibility? Whenever I watched a guy who was a pro athlete who took inept and great care of his body day in and day out, and you got a guy like me who's chugging Cokes and eating cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to try to outlive that guy. It's that smack in the face that, life sucks sometimes, but
it really does. Yeah.
But you got to enjoy the moments that you have right now, because you're not guaranteed more than this moment. So,
right.
And I think that's what I take away from it is, take the trip, have the adventure, do the fun things that you can while you're here, because inevitably you're not going to be here. And it's really weird to say that, and it's really weird to talk like that, but this year's been a really big year for guys that have been, quote, my guys. Wake, Ray Wyatt, Jay Briscoe, kind of been like my guys, guys that I've watched for 10, 15 years of my life. And it's like,
That's pretty young too. Like, even Wakefield, 57 years old, still really young.
Exactly. And that's why I'm like, this is the piece of reality that I take from this is you can be a fine-tuned professional athlete.
Yeah.
And when your time is called, your time is called. So take the trip, enjoy the company of your friends and family, do the things. If you're questioning, hey, should I do this? You have the ability to do it, and it's not going to put a financial burden on you to where you work yourself into the ground to make it up. Take the trip, do the things, enjoy the peace, enjoy the time with your loved ones, make the memories, because unfortunately there's going to be this day where you're not going to have that ability, and it sucks that it feels that way. Obviously not the way that you want to think about things at times, but when you lose someone who you've watched for as long as I've watched Tim Wakefield, it's that smack in the face of, here's reality, buddy. Be ready for it.
Yeah. And that's a good way to end the show. Mike, come on the podcast. Appreciate it. Anything you want to plug?
You can listen to me, Jim and Joe, Take 3 Wrestling. We'll eventually get Ernest on for a guest starring episode at some point. You can listen to me talk Sunny Days and Double Plays, a Palm Beach baseball podcast where I talk about my men's league stuff. FKC Fantasy Hour with Craig and Ryan. We talk about fantasy football.
I'm really enjoying that show, by the way. The FKC Fantasy Hour.
Yeah,
really fun show.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm not even and the funny thing is, I'm not even into fantasy football like podcasts, but but I like the fact that you guys go all over the gamut.
Oh yeah, we have to. We got to keep people on their toes. That can be found on the Huddle Up Incorporated feed. Big Jim posts that for me. Appreciate him as always. And last but certainly not least, you can listen to me starting this weekend. I will be posting the first episode of the 5 for Fighting on the Huddle Up Incorporated feed, as opening face-offs take place in a little under 6 days, right under the big stars of the National Hockey League.
I'm sure it'll be predictions and stuff, right? Predictions and
yeah, I think this one's going to be a little bit more long format. I think this one we're going to go over some divisions. We're going to go over some other stuff before we get into the standard podcast of the 5 topics. I will break this on your show. I haven't told Jim this yet.
Okay.
5 for Fighting. I'm not going to do it every week because sometimes there are weeks where there is just not shit to talk about. It's probably going to be an every 2-week thing.
Yeah.
So just to keep hockey fresh and content fresh, because there were times last year where I was sitting down trying to do research to do an episode, and I'm like, I'm really going to think about talking about Yugoslavian junior hockey because there really isn't anything to fucking talk about.
I think once you get close to like March, April, then it picks up a little bit, and then you can start the playoff races and all that.
It's the first couple weeks. It's the All-Star break, and then it's ramping up in April.
Yeah, the same basketball too, for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
It runs the same way. So, Mikey, good job as always, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy.